Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I'm Mufti. You're watching Mufti and I love tea. So in today's video, or today's educational or tutorial video, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we are going to be discussing a bit of theory and a bit of practice. And the theory or the theoretical part of this discussion or tutorial will be pertaining to the types of tea or the classes of tea. So the people of knowledge, tea experts, they have taught us is that there are 5 to 6 main classes of tea. So of course we have our green tea, and then we have yellow tea, we have white tea, we have oolong tea, we have black tea, and we have pu'er. Let's repeat that. 5 or 6. So let's just say 6. Number 1, green. Number 2, yellow. Number 3, white. Number 4, we will say oolong. Number 5, black. And number 6, pu'er. Pu'er. Okay. Some scholars say that there's a 7th class, which is herbal tea, which, as we have explained before, isn't actually a type of tea, meaning it's not Camellia sinensis assamica, but it's different herbs, flowers, different plants that are dried, that are pan-fired or pan-roasted or whatever, and then crushed or made into tea bags, or even using loose-leaf herbal tea. All right, it doesn't have to be in a bag. What's important is that it's not the tea leaf, the caffeine containing tea leaf. It's an herbal tea, caffeine free, right? Okay. What's important is that we said 5 to 6 main classes of tea. Let's repeat that one more time. Fundamental basic knowledge. Number 1, green tea. Number 2, yellow tea. Number 3, white tea. Number 4, oolong tea. Number 5, black tea. And number 6, pu'er tea. Those are the 6 main classes of tea. The reason why they receive these different names and these different colors is based off of, as we've explained before, how the tea is grown, where the tea is grown, when, how the tea was picked or plucked, and what season: the spring, the winter, the fall, early spring, first flush. These tea leaves were picked by human hands, fingers, fingernails, as many ancient Chinese emperors would command for the tea tax, the tribute that was paid by the peasants to the government, be paid using the finest teas, picked and plucked by the finest hands, the finest fingers, and the finest fingertips, the finest fingernails. This emperor, he was, one can say extreme, and another may say thorough or meticulous, that he didn't want the people's fingertips on the tea leaves because of sweat and perspiration. And the tea leaves that weren't picked with the fingernails, that were used with fingertips, they could only be picked by young virgin girls. He didn't want no men touching his tea, nor did he want any grown women or any women that were defiled by sexual contact with men. Okay, he wanted pure virgin, nimble fingers picking his tea. All right, to show you the extent of the obsession and fascination that people have with tea and its preparation. So what makes a green tea from a yellow tea, from a black tea, from an oolong tea to a pu'er tea is based off of how the tea plant is grown, where it's grown, how it's picked, how it's plucked, when it's picked, when it's plucked, and how the tea is processed afterwards, with regards to it being whirled, withered, pan-fired, dried, baked, roasted, with regards to the tea leaves being mixed with flowers and other types of aromas and scents, etc., 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 etc. The tea that is aged and the tea that is fermented like wine, fermented and then aged and then mixed, the pu'er and the different types of pu'er tea cakes. the different discs that you may see in a tea store wrapped up. All right, so these are the different determining factors, the things that make a yellow from a green from a such and such. Everybody clear on that, inshallah ta'ala? And we'll have more videos on this, more classes on this, more tutorials, more theory, more book reading on that. The first class of tea that we're going to discuss and introduce to you right now is green tea. Green tea. Okay, so the leaf is plucked, the leaf is picked, and obviously what they do and how they do it is going to determine. The leaf is plucked, and that's going to determine the type of tea that we have. So here we have some green teas. We're going to start off with from Japan. From Japan. Green teas from Japan. And then obviously a person may say, well, why don't you start off with green teas from China? Isn't China the foundation of the Japanese tea culture? There are a few reasons why we're starting off with Japanese green tea. And one of those reasons that in Japan, it's safe to say that 9 out of 10 people are drinking green tea. Whereas in China, that ratio or percentage isn't the same. And which one may accurately say that the majority of the people are drinking oolong or pu'er. All right? And there are many fine black teas that come from China, such as Kimun, etc. All right, what's important is we're starting off with a few, not all green teas from Japan. Okay, so the first of these is no doubt probably the easiest to recognize and probably the most iconic. And we've done a tutorial on this, and that is matcha. Acha matcha. I love you matcha. I love you matcha. I love you so matcha. Obviously, matcha is a powder. It's obviously the processed tea leaves, whether they're baked or fired, whatever, ground into a powder. Okay? And then we have on this palette or tray what would be called green tea. Japanese green tea. And obviously we're talking about green tea, but this is an example of a type of tea that doesn't have a specific name on the package or the label, but it's still better than getting some tea out of a tea bag. And perhaps we'll come back to that. Afterwards, we have Sencha. Very popular Japanese tea and a very fine tea. And then after our Sencha, we have Bancha. And Bancha looks very similar, and some may even argue saying it's the same or very close to Longjing. Alright? And then we have our Jinmacha, or Jinmachai, or Jinmacha, which is basically roasted rice tea. And you can see the little small tiny kernels, or the little, pods, or whatever you want to call them, of rice, along with Bancha or Longjing or Sencha. Okay, so once more, we have matcha, and here's like a generic Japanese green tea, which is very similar. It looks as if you look closely, it looks like it's a mix of Sencha and Bancha together. All right, then we have the Sencha, we have the Bancha, and the Jinmacha. So these are only 5, and for reality 4 types of Japanese green tea. There are many others. Of course, a green tea, you aren't going to bring the water to a roaring boil or a rolling boil. And of course, the flavors may vary. Sencha could be a little sweet. Sencha could be, all of these teas are generally going to be earthy type of stony type of taste. The Jinmacha is going to be like popcorn, a popcornish type of flavor. A roasted type of popcorn flavor, right? Okay. Sencha is very popular tea in Japan. 40% of the country's total tea production is in Sencha. Okay, and most of these teas are going to be infused with water between 160 to 170 Fahrenheit. 160 to 170 If you go a little bit over that, 175, 180, it depends on your taste. But these types of tea, you don't want to scorch them. And of course, you don't want to put any sugar in any of these teas. My humble opinion, these teas mixed with sugar or milk or honey would be a sin. It would be mutilation of the tea. These types of teas are meant to be enjoyed by themselves. They are not creatures that live in communities. They are loners. They like to be by themselves. They don't need nothing in the cup with them. Something on the side, that's fine. That's totally up to you. But no tea, no sugar, no honey, no milk, no sweetener, no agave, no monk fruit, nothing. And we want to bring our water no less than 160, no higher than 180. And you can allow your tea, your Japanese green teas, to infuse anywhere from 60 seconds to 2 minutes. I personally wouldn't allow them to sit any longer than that. Now, the hue of the tea, the color of the liquor, is going to vary from tea to tea. Obviously, the matcha isn't like the gin matcha. The gin matcha isn't like the bencha. The bencha isn't like the sencha, etc. You want to have a hue. The sencha can be very green. All right, there's nothing wrong with that with regards to the color, the liquor. It looking like artichoke, okay, or even some say an olive hue, but some people like it even darker and even more green. All right, so what's important is the temperature, no less than 160, no higher than 180. And we want to have it steeping for no longer than 2 minutes. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we will try to start off with, let's say, a 6-ounce cup. You don't want a big, huge cup of this. And that's a different discussion, which will come in different videos. The madhabs of cups in the East versus the West. And the hybrid cups, and how in the East, the tea cup is normally smaller. Whereas the tea is meant to be sipped and taken in at a certain temperature and a certain amount, versus you having a mug and you keep sipping from it. All right, so what's important is 160 to 180, 60 to 120 seconds, and inshallah ta'ala, a teaspoon for 6 ounces of water. A 6-ounce cup, 1 teaspoon of these teas. And as you go along, you can add more or less depending on your specific taste. Learn the form, but seek the form less. Now, and so let's say 1 tablespoon of this tea for 6 ounces to 8 ounces. And of course, with fine quality loose leaf tea, you are going to steep the tea more than once. You are not going to throw it away after the first infusion or the first steeping. Everybody clear on that? So, you know, where it comes from, what it looks like, the aroma of the tea. There are many different things that we can talk about and discuss in this video. That's enough for now. Inshallah, more in the future.